Hey guys, Chet Womack here from thedogtrainingsecret.com. I wanted to shoot a follow-up video with you and help you get better results with your dog by understanding three of the major categories of drives, or other words known as motivations, that your dog may have. Now, just a day or two ago, I published a video called the 4-Hour Training Session, and this was a video that was designed to fix what I call the dog's play drive. So this is when a dog wants to play too much. It wants to jump up. It's so excited to see you. It wants to jump on the couch because it's running in. It's a little puppy. It doesn't know what to do yet, and it jumps on the first thing it sees, or it jumps on you when you're sitting on the ground, or it steals food out of little kids' hands, or pulls on their jammies because it wants to play tug, that kind of stuff. And how that technique that I shared with you a few days ago called the 4-Hour Training Session can absolutely curb that massively in just a period of 4 hours when you use the right technique and match it to that motivation. I also talk a lot about food drive. So this is where we use food to get dogs to really learn specifically new things like concepts. We want to teach a dog a concept and want it to learn it. And we don't want it to stop doing things. We want it to start doing things. We'll often use food. These are just general, this isn't gospel, every one of these things, but this is the general categories that each of these drives fit into. And so with food, when we want to teach our dog to sit, we will use food, or to learn how to leave it, for example, or drop it, or retrieve it, or, go to your place or to stay. We will use food to teach those concepts to the dog, and it's an incredibly effective tool when used appropriately. And then there's another type of drive. These aren't the only three drives, there's more, but the other type of drive is called prey drive. And prey drive gets a little bit more complex. And so I wanted to just help you guys segment these three if you've never thought about this before, because each of them has their place. And for example, if I've got a great technique that I'm using food and you watching me do something on a video, my dog's really learning, and it's not working for you because your dog wants to always go chase a horse, there's a reason, and that's because the motivation isn't the motivator that we're using, whether it's food or it's a mini timeout like I explained in a video a couple of days ago, isn't designed to work for your dog's particular drive that is causing the problems you're trying to fix with your dog. So prey drive is one of these things that takes a different type of training. I call this type of training emotional conditioning, and the reason that I call it this is because really where you're trying to undo hardwired programming of a dog so that those dogs can coexist in our life well. See, we have to remember that dogs have been bred intentionally and also just through survival methods with certain traits, right? They've been passed down. All dogs originally came from wolves, and wolves traveled in packs, and they had hunting rituals, if you want to call them that. They had things that they did that kept them alive, and those are hard-grained into our animals, some more than others, but they are, right? I mean, you could see people that have this issue when you've got dogs that have been trained to dig. They've literally been bred to dig out rabbits and foxes, and then you've got a digging problem in your yard. And this is, these are issues that are a little bit deeper than just, showing him a treat and showing him how not to do it. Or, if he's designed and bred to chase, dig and chase little bunnies and rabbits and squirrels, well, we've got some undoing to do here if we're going to have some success. So, anyways, those are the three categories that I like to focus on that tend to, fit into the biggest chunks of training, and so it's the easiest way to chunk it down. And an example of well, let me stop for a sec and say that. Let me back up and say, well, is there any hope for reprogramming your dog and rewiring them? And actually there is, yes, which is awesome, and it is an interesting way of doing things when you're trying to change instinctual drives, but you can do it. And I'll just share a quick little story with you that I find very interesting and weird as an example of how you can rewire an animal's brain, and then I'll give you some resources for where, if you're interested in this kind of thing, you can go and check that out. So back when they allowed people to do weird, sadistic experiments on rats and torture them, they had a very interesting experiment that I share often and want to share with you here because it's a great point, where they would take a rat. They'd starve the rat and they'd put it in front of a feeder where it had a little lever that it could push, and every time it pushed the lever, it would get food. And so the rat quickly figured this out. Every time it wanted to eat, it'd push the lever, eat the food. And then they wired the lever so it had a mild amount of electric shock on it. And just a mild amount. So when it touched it, it wasn't enough pain to not be worth eating the food. So they're willing to put up with a little bit of pain. And they kept on dialing up the electric shock. So they put up with a little more pain and a little more pain and a little more pain until literally they would touch it and it'd jolt them back, and they'd jump, they'd fly around the cage, but they'd still go back and get the pellet and then do it again. And they actually had addicted the rats to pain, something that genetically they have been, absolutely not addicted to, and avoid it all at all expenses, and do whatever they can for survival to avoid pain and trauma. And with training, they were able to undo one of nature's most basic genetic traits to avoid things that hurt us. And why I don't obviously recommend you doing any of that kind of, dark side of training on your animals, it should open up your mind to what's possible, because the good news is that type of training style can be used for good with rewiring for positive things as well. And I don't have time to go into all of it, but those are the 3 categories. If you're interested in learning more about this, you can check out our store, which there'll be some links below this on YouTube, or if you aren't watching this on YouTube, thedogtrainingsecret.com/dreamdog. That's DREAMDOG is where we have a little video presentation where you can watch where I kind of explain what this program goes over. But if you're interested in undoing those sorts of things with your dog, that prey drive side of things, that's a very interesting program that you can go check out. And anyways, those were some distinctions I wanted to share with you today. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have questions, please post them. I look forward to reading them.